So anyway, I love Star Wars, and I love expansive universes. I love Game of Thrones. I love Star Wars. I love the Marvel universe. I love the DC universe. I love a lot of those things, right? So I'm in a position to love this movie. I've been watching Star Wars since I was 12, right? 14 years ago, and um, it's been a big fan. I love all the characters. All right, you get it. So I'm not going into this movie ready to hate on it. Now, um, let's begin. Okay, one of the first things I noticed from the very beginning of the movie was its choppy editing. Uh, it felt like a movie that had a bunch of scenes that were shot individually with no knowledge of the other scenes in the movie, and they just kind of put that shit together at the end. They're just like, okay, this goes here in some kind of chronological order, but nothing was shot in the way that it kind of goes with the rest of this. It just felt like I wasn't going from moment to moment and was going from here's act 1 out of 20, here's act 2 out of 20, here's act 3 out of 20, and they just put that shit all together. It's an ugly feeling when I'm watching a movie when I don't feel like I am fully immersed in it and I'm just watching a bunch of choppy, poorly edited shit. It just, the choppy feeling in a movie is one of the worst movie feelings in the world. Okay? Actually, I'm going to pause the music so it doesn't get in the way of a YouTube video in case I want to upload this. That's one of the complaints. And look, I wrote them all down, and I might even come up with more. I got 14. I wrote this all down. And some parts are a little more important than others, but let me... Right, I'm not solely complaining about plot holes. That's not my aim here. Because that happens in a lot of movies, and I'm prepared to suspend my belief when I'm watching Star Wars. Or is it suspend my disbelief? I forget what it's called. Whatever it is. You know what I'm saying, right? I am okay with things being a little wild because it's a fantasy universe. Right? That's fine. Disbelief. Okay, there you go. But there are issues that have nothing to do with that. And that's the main focus of my complaints. Number 2. The characters were soulless. Soulless. The whole movie lacked a whole lot of soul. A lot of the characters in the movie had very, very poor character development to the point where I just felt absolutely nothing for a lot of the characters. And a lot of the times that could be my fault. But I know that this time it is not. And it's for a couple of different reasons. First of all, these characters have already existed in prior movies, and I felt a lot for them before. Rey and Finn, alright, along with Kylo, were amazing new characters introduced to the series in The Force Awakens. I felt a lot for all those characters in The Force Awakens. In this movie, I still think Kylo was okay. I personally love Kylo as a character. I think it's amazing. Yeah, and I still feel like he's fine in this movie. Rey went from such a compelling, strong character into some fucking shell, soulless, completely devoid of any legitimately deep conviction or motivation. It was just the most shallow shit I've seen out of that character. And with Finn, what did he do this movie? What did Finn do in this movie? Which brings me to my next complaint. That whole Casino Planet scene, the scene where they're hanging out on the Casino Planet, to find a guy who's like a code master who's going to break some code so they could go off into the Star Destroyer and disable their lightspeed tracker. They go to this planet, to the city, to find a codebreaker guy. Instead, they can't get that codebreaker guy, so they get some other guy. They never end up needing him because the lightspeed thing didn't end up getting disabled anyway. And that guy ended up turning out to betray them. Don't even get me started on what Benicio del Toro's position in that movie was. That guy was fucking garbage. Useless. Useless. Anyway, I'll continue. Hold on. Just wait. Wait. Okay. Minor complaint, I understand. I don't really understand why all of a sudden there's a lightspeed tracker game-changing mechanic, but that's okay. R2-D2's been saving the universe a billion times on some Deus Ex Machina shit. He literally just sticks his fucking probe into a fucking hole and the whole universe is saved multiple times. I understand. Sometimes you gotta have it both ways. You gotta have some fucking weird shit that saves the whole universe, and you gotta have some weird shit that brings conflict to everyone that you care about. Okay? But they go to this planet. They save a bunch of fucking space horses. They go to jail. They find some shady guy who they end up trusting, who ends up betraying them. Fucking shocker. In literally less than 3 minutes of airtime for that character. It just felt like that entire... And then they just go back, and then they go with a different plan anyway. So it just felt like that entire sequence was completely unnecessary. And it was the majority of Finn and Rose's screen time. First of all, I didn't really like Rose as a character, by the way, but she wasn't necessarily bad. I just didn't know why she was there. I didn't, but that's whatever. If that was the only issue, I'd have no issue. But I'm just getting Jar Jar Binks vibes. That's all I'm saying. But to a way less degree. So these two very important characters were drawn out on a quest that was just completely unnecessary to the overarching story. And sometimes, you know, that's life, right? You go on some kind of journey that doesn't really serve the purpose that you were intending for it to. But why write it in? Why? What was the point? What was the point of having this entire sequence in the movie when you could have done something else? You could have told a different story. You chose to tell a story where you included an entire arc where nothing of consequence happened. They freed the fucking space horses, and they inspired some fucking little Jedi future kid. That's it. I just... And they used two of the main characters for that entire sequence, and I just felt like I didn't see why they were there. What was... Or the grab. The point was to get a bunch of resistance transports killed. Yeah, I can see that.
He's a favorite, man.
I just felt like they could have done a better job with those 90 minutes. Or hour, whatever it was. Whatever that arc was. Yo, welcome back to the Sub Pub. I agree with you point by point. Thank you. Okay, so that's that whole thing. Which also lends to the idea that a lot of these characters were severely underdeveloped. You literally put two of the main characters in a pointless goose chase, whatever it was, in no way really drove the plot. Well, it drove the plot. That's not fair to say. In no way did it... It was incredibly underwhelming, and it seemed unnecessary, and you stuck two of the main characters in this scene. In this whole sequence. You can show that characters aren't always successful, and they have struggles in different ways. When Han Solo gets frozen in fucking God, I'm forgetting the name of it. When Han Solo gets frozen by Boba Fett, Jabba the Hutt, that is showing that characters can fail, that these heroes are not always invincible. But you know what? That whole sequence drives the plot home. Carbonite, there you go. It drives it. It keeps it going. This, what does it do? What does it do? Are you going to look at Finn dealing with Benicio del Toro to get some codes on this fucking casino planet the same way you look at Jabba's palace with Han Solo frozen and Luke Skywalker and Leia coming in disguise to save them? Are you going to look at it the same way? No, because those are two different kinds of hardships. One drives the story, the other seems like a complete waste of time. Alright, next. And these are probably my two biggest complaints. Okay? This is a two-part number 4. Two of the bigger mysteries in The Force Awakens were either completely unaddressed or tossed aside in The Last Jedi. Number one, Snoke's entire backstory just completely thrown in the shitter like no one ever cared about it. Are you fucking kidding me? You're taking a character that you're introducing as the supreme, like, you know, diabolical force of this universe. You are introducing him that way as just some kind of just doom monster and shrouding him in mystery in The Force Awakens, and you let the next movie come out without explaining anything about him and just killing him off? And that's it? Are you fucking kidding me? Look, okay, when I first watched the original trilogy, I don't even think the Emperor was mentioned in A New Hope. Maybe once or twice. That's it. You don't get to see him. And then he comes out in The Empire Strikes Back. You already know that this man is an evil force. Just the supreme power in the universe in terms of darkness, in terms of evil. And they didn't give a great background story to him, right? You just know that he's the Emperor, and he's evil, and he's powerful, and he's controlling people, right? And he didn't get a background either. So why am I mad about Snoke and I'm not mad about Emperor Palpatine in the original trilogy? Well, it's because in the original trilogy, these characters were just being introduced, and the universe itself was just being introduced. So it was expected for there to be some kind of mystery throughout everyone's background, right? You didn't necessarily need to know, or you didn't even have the chance to develop the kind of questions you wanted to ask about Emperor Palpatine. Maybe you want to know where he's from. Maybe you want to know how he came to power. But you're not familiar enough with the universe to have developed the kind of questions you want to ask, because it's new. And you know what? They did answer it eventually with the prequels, right? And people don't love the prequels, but the universe was there. The universe establishing where these characters came from was there. Poorly executed, but it was there. You knew damn well where Palpatine eventually came from. But Snoke? You're bringing in Snoke when the entire universe is already established and characters are already established, and you're bringing in this new force who essentially served to film a huge power vacuum after Darth Vader and the Emperor had been defeated. And here's this man who essentially fills that power vacuum. And you don't have the nerve to explain how he got there, where he came from, who he is. You just say nothing about him, and then you kill him off, and that's it? Like we're not supposed to care? Are you fucking kidding me? That is angering. How do you... And it's not like the movie, you know, it's like, oh, you're not supposed to care about this guy. It's okay, people die all the time. No, The Force Awakens set this guy up to be explained. This character was set up to be a mystery. And you just kill him off. Here's a thought experiment. Take Snoke, as you saw him in the Last Jedi, throw him in a fucking Marvel movie, and tell me that anyone's going to have a problem with this character being included in the Marvel universe. Tell me that anyone's going to look at him and say, wait, hold on. This guy doesn't belong in this universe. This is weird. This character belongs somewhere else. No. Absolutely not. You know why? Because they didn't develop his fucking character whatsoever. You could literally take this man, stick him into the Marvel universe, and the majority of the world would not know the difference. Because this guy was so shallow, and there was nothing explained about him. If you take Luke Skywalker and put him in Marvel, do you think people will notice? Fuck yeah. You put Darth Vader in there, people are going to notice. Fuck yeah. And not just because they're popular, because they have a backstory. They have history. You could tell where they belong. They belong in the Star Wars universe. Does Snoke belong in the Star Wars universe the way he played out? Absolutely not. He's just a fucking guy who was evil that died with no explanation about who he is or where he came from. Angering. Fucking angering. Second, the second thing, the second of the bigger mysteries in The Force Awakens that was just completely tossed aside in this movie. And I want you guys to guess what it is. What is the second thing?
Hugo Chan, everybody wants to.
What's the second thing? I want my chat. I already know the chat knows this. What is the mystery, the big mystery in The Force Awakens that was just completely tossed aside in The Last Jedi? Yo, Pikmin, welcome to Sub Pub. You got it. Raised parents. Look, I understand perfectly that raised parents don't necessarily have to be anybody important. They don't have to be. She can be born of just some random, just shitlord parents that had no influence on the universe. And that's their prerogative on telling that kind of story. But when you put out The Force Awakens, and you essentially set up the importance of raised parents for a large part of that movie, you're literally just feeding her background down our throat, the importance of her background, the mystery of her background down our throat. And then in the new movie, you have people feeding you the background, the importance of her background in the story. You have Kylo saying, I know you're going to turn to the dark side because I know who your parents are. You have Snoke saying, I've now found out you're not a Skywalker when I thought you were. And you're just putting all this value on her backstory. And then you kill that fact by someone saying they were nobodies. They were junk rats. They sold you off for scraps. I understand that it doesn't have to be that important. It doesn't have to be. But why the fuck did you make it seem like it was important? Why'd you make it seem like it was important? Why would you sit there and spend all that time telling us it was important? You could literally kill that in one line in the Force Awakens, where someone says her parents were junk rats. Unassuming junk rats. Whatever it is. And you're like, okay, now I know she came from nothing. Cool. Moving on to the important stuff. Why set us up? No, Kylo said that, not Snoke. Why set us up to believe that there's importance behind her parents when there really isn't? And maybe these are lies, and maybe there's more to be said about her past. But you're completely skipping an entire... You're not only skipping an entire movie, you're actually saying the opposite in a movie with no resolution on that until the next one. Even if that's the case, that is a shitty way to execute. That is a shitty way of execute. Okay? Oh, that's a point, Squishy. Don't worry about it. That's a point. Okay? Shitty way to execute. Trash. Another thing, by the way, that I forgot to mention, because like I said, I would end up adding things that I forget to mention. How in the fuck are you going to end The Force Awakens with Rey standing at the mountaintop, ready to hand the lightsaber over to Luke, and Luke staring at her like he cannot believe that someone has found her? And then at the start of the next movie, he just throws that shit in the ocean. Now I understand Luke wants nothing to do with the Jedi Order, but that right there is just the trashiest way to execute that kind of scene or that kind of sentiment. Why not have him verbally reject the lightsaber? Why not have him, have some kind of conflict about it? But instead, you're trying to create some kind of humorous Guardians of the Galaxy kind of moment at the worst possible time. We haven't even gotten into how horribly timed the humor was in this movie. Fucking horrific. You don't wait an entire movie to start it off with a joke. Ridiculous. How funny. they got us so worked up about the final scene in The Force Awakens. But Luke is finally back. And then the next movie they hit us with the Guardians of the Galaxy bullshit, kind of with awful timing, not even close to that kind of level of funny. And they just throw that shit in the river. Oh, 2 years of comedy. Oh, genius. Genius. Yeah, and why was Hux like some kind of fucking a Three Stooge motherfucker? He was a serious, kind of threatening individual in The Force Awakens, and here he's just like Moe's lackey. Alright, whatever. Let's continue. Alright, now we start getting into some weird plot points, okay? Leia getting jettisoned into space. Not dying. Using her force powers or whatever to float back into the spaceship. Okay, first of all, look, I get it. New Jedi powers are introduced all the time. New Jedi powers are introduced all the time, right? And I do not expect at this point to understand everything that the Jedi are capable of doing. Okay, but you're hitting me with a woman who has not been shown to practice her Jedi powers, do something that no Jedi has ever done in any other movie that has ever existed. The moment she dies, she wakes up, flies herself back into the spaceship. And what happens when she flies herself back into the spaceship? She goes back into a coma. Are you fucking kidding me? She gets jettisoned into space, floats her ass back into the ship with her force powers only to and just go back into a coma. Are you fucking kidding me? Mace Windu could get force lightninged like 1,000 miles or 100 miles into the distance on regular planet atmosphere, and he dies, supposedly. But Leia could get jettisoned into space. Fucking, what do you call this shit? What do you call it when you, like, fucking Chidori? I don't know, that fucking Naruto shit. She just teleports her ass back, instant transmission, back into the fucking ship. And then falls into a coma, and she's too sick to rule, like to manage the ship. Ridiculous. Who wrote that shit? That is fucking terrible. Mary Poppins her ass back into the ship. That is unfucking believable. All right. Whew. Okay, and you know that doesn't ruin movies for me. That's just a plot fucking weird device shit, but it doesn't ruin movies for me. I'm not even done. Next point. The First Order catches up to the Resistance. Why in the world did they have to wait for their fuel to run out? And I'm legitimately asking this as a question because I didn't get it in the story. Maybe I just missed it. Couldn't they have just bombed the shit out of these final ships? Why did they sit there and wait for 90 minutes for their fuel to run out before they decide to blow them up, for their shields to run out? Since when have shields been such a deterrent to blowing up ships? Literally everything has a shield in the Star Wars universe. And I understand there have been moments in Star Wars lore where they got to take out the shields if you want to take out the ship, right? That happens all the time. But literally, a few minutes before that, Kylo Ren rolls up, blows the fuck out of that cockpit, kills Admiral Akbar in one of the most inconsequential ways I've ever seen, murders him, but then all of a sudden they can't get past a couple shields? Are you fucking kidding me? They blow that cockpit to smithereens, and they can't get in range to just blow these fucking things up? They're out of range? They were able to stay out of range? What? They can't just speed up a little bit? They were able to stay out of range. I don't get it. They got ships, little ships that go fly over and blow that shit up. No, okay, so you got... Alright, I'm going to read the chat. How did they explain that? How did they explain that? They destroyed all their fighters? There were no fighters... Wait, who destroyed all their fighters? So did they not have little fighters? At the range the Rebellion cruiser was, the rounds from the First Order ship would not be detrimental to the cruiser's shields. Okay, so what about... They didn't want to send the TIE fighters in without backup. They destroyed most of the fighters. You guys understand that they were down to one ship at a certain point, and they still didn't feel comfortable sending in fighters. I don't understand. I don't get it. No, what the fuck are you talking about, Gumby? No. Like, literally, Kylo Ren did that with 3 people. And they blew up the cockpit. Okay, fine. There's an explanation, I guess. Do you still think that's good writing to explain something away like that? I don't think so. Fine. Okay, we'll accept that. We'll just let it go. We'll let it go. Slight nitpick. Alright. Gumby, I'm going to ban you because the answer is no, and you're fucking annoying me. I don't care what Drunk Mango's saying on his stream. Alright. How in the fuck... Okay, here's the other part. Alright, you guys can explain this to me. I'm sure there was an explanation. At a certain point, 80 ships, like 80 ships leave the main ship, and then the Empire's acting like they don't see them. First of all, before that scene, whoever the purple-haired girl was, by the way, she was an atrocious new character. Her and Rose were not good characters. I just... trash. In the entire scene leading up to it, this character who has now assumed command of the ship after Leia got into a coma for some reason, refused to tell anyone what her plan was, and was just like, you want a plan? You just gotta... I don't listen to wild pilots like you, Bo Daniels, or Poe. I don't listen to you. I don't listen to you. So we're just gonna not explain any part of a plan. I'm gonna treat you like you're crazy. And I'm not gonna really tell anybody or anyone in the movie what the plan is. And then once the actual escape plan is planned, then Leia like tries to lecture Poe, like, oh, see, she meant the best. She just couldn't tell you. And then he's like, oh, I see. Are you fucking kidding me? That was such poor writing. I just cannot believe that they got away with writing some bullshit like that, where this girl acts like Poe is crazy for wanting to know a plan, and then she does a plan where the First Order doesn't even realize that all these ship just left the bigger ship. And look, I understand their sensors are not good enough. Are you telling me they can't physically see it with their eyes? They literally can't see it with their eyes? They can't see that all these ships are escaping? Excuse me? They're trying to dip in escape pods and they couldn't see it? Okay, fine. Once they decide that all these ships leave, why the fuck did this lady who knew she was going to die already not just lightspeed into the big ship right off the bat? Why did she only decide that once all her friends were getting shot up and dying? Why at that point did she finally decide, oh, maybe I should like attack with this ship that I'm already about to die in? Oh, I've already talked about the casino plan, by the way. Alright, anyway. Maybe that's nitpicking too. But that could, like, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Both those things could have been written better. They could have written better the reason why they don't just blow them the fuck up. Right? They could have legitimately shown, like, really explained that they were out of fighters. They could have really done that instead of just having a small dialogue scene that says, yeah, we're out of fighters. We gotta wait them out. Or they could have really done a better job of, like, showing how this plan was really effective. Not just doing it because, oh, they can't see, and then some traitor, code guy who wanted money, whose name I still don't know, Benicio del Toro's character, just decided to betray them within 3 minutes of being introduced to the movie, and that's the reason they found out, and then they started killing them. Jesus. Like, it was just fucking horrific writing. They could have done way better. Adam Driver has been amazing every single movie. Adam Driver's amazing. Alright. So tell me, has there been any development in the characters of Finn and Poe? Have you gotten anything new out of this movie? Was there development in The Force Awakens? Yes. Yes, I definitely understood them as characters. I definitely felt their progression throughout the movie. And Poe had arguably less time in The Force Awakens than he did in The Last Jedi. I don't fucking know what these characters did this movie. And then, yeah, and then Finn and Rey barely had any screen time together. Oh my god. Just what are you doing with all this time? And let's just talk. Okay, this is my next point, actually. Good, it's my next point. Let's talk about the entire premise and setting of this movie. What did this movie do to advance the universe as a whole? Right? You think of Return of the Jedi. Luke comes back as a full-fledged Jedi to try to convert Anakin. He manages to convert Anakin back to the light. He manages to kill the Emperor. The second Death Star is destroyed. They destroy the shields on the base of Endor. All these things happen, and then the Empire is destroyed. Do you see how the universe has advanced in Return of the Jedi? In A New Hope, Skywalker, right, Darth Vader's son, comes to prominence. He learns that he has the ability of the Force. Obi-Wan Kenobi dies. The Death Star is destroyed. Princess Leia is saved. the universe has progressed. In this movie, the only thing that happened is the rebels were trying to escape their base, and I have no idea how the rebels were so, overtaken by the First Order after the First Order was the rebel group battling against the Republic, and now they are the dominant force. And we're going to skip all that and how all that happened, and we're just going to go straight into the rebels trying to escape from their sole base down to one ship. So the only thing that happened is the rebels, the resistance escaped, tried to escape, got caught in like a light speed battle, and then landed on some planet, and then had another battle there, and that is it. That is it. That is the full advancement of this universe that happened in this movie. And you know what I'm thinking when I watch this? This could have been fucking done in one single animated show, one single animated episode of something similar to the Clone Wars, where they literally show, like, the resistance escapes from the base. They battle in space. They land on the moon. They have another battle, and they leave victorious with renewed hope in the resistance. 30 minutes. 30 fucking minutes, and you could advance the universe the way that this entire movie did. These movies are not meant to advance the universe little by little. These movies are meant to push the universe, to really explain the big picture, and then you leave the smaller little battles and things like that for the other work. You're telling me that you spent 2 hours dedicated to an escape attempt by the Resistance. 2.5 hours. Do you know more about the universe now? Do you know what happened to Snoke? He died. Do you know where he came from? Do you know what happened to Kylo? He took over, I guess. How did the universe change? It felt like Ryan kind of untold everything J.J. Abrams set up in this movie. Yes, I agree. Now, my next point. Dialogue was ass. I think that's an unfair criticism. Do you really believe that the universe was advanced with this movie? Completely. The scope of this movie was so small. It was embarrassing that they spent 2.5 hours on this. Fucking terrible. They could have done so much more to explain
this
the
movie
universe.
has made me feel like I was losing my mind alone on an island. You are the savior we need.
Yo, thank you for the donation, man. I appreciate it. Appreciate the donation. Appreciate the thoughts. I'm glad we agree. Let's talk about the dialogue. The dialogue was a piece of shit. And I'm going to be real here. I don't remember every single horrible dialogue that was expressed, but I remember a couple. I remember a couple. There was one scene, and this relates a lot to the next problem, which is related to Luke just kind of being shat on in this movie. I don't know who Luke is in this movie anymore. And I understand that he went to some hardships. But, I mean, it's not like he was this during The Empire Strikes Back when it turns out his father is the most evil man in the universe. This is his fucking nephew. This isn't his father. This is his fucking nephew, and he's losing his mind over all this. But look, let me just talk about the dialogue. And let me think of one of my favorite examples of this. There was one scene where Rey is asking Luke to come back and save the Resistance, to help the Resistance. And what does he say? He says, do you think I'm just going to go back wielding my lightsaber and save the whole universe? Bitch, that is exactly what you did in the trilogy. You have lived this. You've already done this. Why would anyone write Luke as the type of guy who would think that this whole idea is crazy? You literally did this already in the prior movies, and now all of a sudden, you think that that whole idea is crazy? You went out there, you took your fucking lightsaber, you fought with your father, you helped kill the Emperor. Kind of, not really. Vader did that, but whatever. The Emperor got killed. You ended an entire oppressive regime and restored the Republic. And you're out here sarcastically and just mockingly saying, "What am I gonna do? I'm just gonna go out there wielding a lightsaber, fight the entire First Order." Yes, bitch. Yes, that's what you were gonna do. You've done that already. Holy shit. So bad. So bad. How do you make him say some shit like that? God. I wish I had more dialogue situations that I had memorized. This is Luke developing into a self-hating Jedi because of how self-righteous they all are, even himself. Self-righteous? My man, Travis, Luke hasn't met any other Jedis other than the ones he trained himself. He wasn't Anakin dealing with the Jedi Order and like Mace Windu and like Obi-Wan and all that. He literally came after it was all over and he started himself. He has no idea how self-righteous the Jedi are. That's not his place. He doesn't know that. So don't say that his character is supposed to be jaded by the Jedi Order just like that. There's got to be a reason for him to be jaded by this Jedi Order, and Kylo being part of the dark side is not enough reason. Motherfucker, his dad was the ultimate darksider, and that didn't shake him enough to want to quit. But all of a sudden, Kylo Ren having a moment is enough to shake him after Luke actually attempted to kill him in his sleep. This motherfucker tries to save his dad and believes that there's still good in Darth Vader, and yet he thinks that Kylo Ren is such a lost cause that he wants to murder his nephew in his sleep? Is that the Luke Skywalker that we've come to know? If not, can you please explain how he has become this way? Please. Jeez. All right. So, Luke was just written as such a and, and the one saving grace he had to go battle the First Order, he was some kind of fucking forced projection, and he just kind of killed himself after it was over. Did he kill himself, or did he just die from using too much force? What happened there? I don't know what happened, but I can't. Oh God, I don't even know what happened there. Luke was just a shit show in that movie, and I got to watch it again to really understand how much of a shit show he was. Whew. Okay, next point, and this is a big one. The humor was ridiculously out of place. This movie and the writing just did not understand when it was time to make a joke versus when it was time to be serious. And that's its own fault, because it would set up the context to be serious and deliver humor in the most awkward periods, the most awkward moments where you're like, dude, I'm trying to feel something in this movie, and you keep throwing jokes at me. Sometimes they're kind of funny, right? I'm not about to judge how funny and unfunny some things are. But the timing was fucking awful. Like everyone's trying to do the Guardians of the Galaxy thing, including Marvel itself on some movies that shouldn't be doing it. And it needs to fucking stop. Like, there are times where it's fine to throw in humor, but this movie got it all wrong. They just... I couldn't believe it. They just kept throwing in humor over and over at moments where you were trying to get more serious. And it just, the humor would be in a way that just wasn't fitting. You could still even throw in a little bit of lightheartedness amidst the seriousness. But the humor, completely out of place. Completely out of place. Upsetting, man. It just completely prevented the ability to get serious about it. Like, the movie even started with humor at a place where I didn't feel it. Like, the beginning, Poe comes up with his ship straight up at Hux's, like, you know, big, what do they call it? The death knot or something. And then Hux just turns into, like, one of the Three Stooges. He's just like a bumbling idiot. It's like, oh, what do you say? What do you say? And it was kind of funny. Right? Does he hear me? And like, it was a little funny, but it's like, okay, not how I wanted the new Star Wars to start. That's okay. I'm sure it was just a bad call, but it kept happening throughout the movie. And here's like Poe just cracking jokes at Hux, and then Hux just being like, "Oh, I'm wacky," and just like just on some Three Stooges shit. And then that's how the rest of the movie kept going. It's like, I've been waiting 2 years for this, and you're going to start this with a couple of jokes? That's fine. But I want to see some progression in the movie and the storytelling, but it didn't. It continued with the jokes. It was a comedy bit. All for what? For Poe to need to take out some cannons for the bombers, the slowest things I've ever seen in my life? For most of them to fail? Just trash. Alright. And it's hard. It's hard to hit the lightheartedness of a Marvel feature if you don't understand the context that you're presenting in. Right? The Marvel movies understand the context. They understand the feelings, the vibes. So when the Hulk grabs Loki, and Loki says, you know, I'm a god, and then Hulk just fucking destroys him, that is funny. The dialogue set it up to be funny. That is a good moment to have that kind of break in the seriousness of the battle. Here, it's just the timing just felt completely off, and I wish I was educated enough in cinematography to be able to tell you precisely why the humor was so off-putting. But I felt it, and I know a lot of you felt it. And I know we're not crazy for feeling it. Because I've seen funny movies when things are supposed to be serious. And they do it they do it right a lot of the times in other movies. No, Marvel does fuck up humor sometimes, yeah, but yeah. Anyway. Okay, the training of Rey. Can you honestly say that in the training that Rey received from Luke Skywalker, that she legitimately became a capable Force wielder? Do you feel the same way from Rey leaving Luke Skywalker as you did with Luke Skywalker leaving Yoda at Dagobah? I don't think so. Rey was told three things. Three things, like feel the Force, stay away from the dark side, whatever. And all of a sudden, she goes and she challenges Snoke. I mean, that wasn't her original intention. Her intention was to challenge Snoke with Kylo. But that training sequence was garbage. I got nothing from that. I'm not feeling in one bit that she's becoming something bigger. And maybe she wasn't supposed to. You know, fuck that. She was supposed to. She was there with Luke, and Luke changed his mind, and Luke was supposed to teach her, and then he changed his mind again, and he sent her off. Whatever it was, I forget, which is a problem. But holy shit, do you like that whole training sequence was done so poorly. I'm not sure how she even came to be any better than she was when she first got in. And most of it involved no training. Okay, and then this brings me to my last point, and I'm sure there's more. Just the overall character development, right? I've already talked about Snoke. I've already talked how you could throw him into a Marvel movie, and he would just completely fit in. You could take him from the Star Wars universe, throw him in a Marvel movie. Snoke comes out. He tries to fight Doctor Strange. He tries to fight Iron Man. You're like, this guy makes sense. Yeah, cool. He's an alien from some planet. He's here to destroy humanity. Perfect. Now let's see him fight. That's a problem. You throw Darth Vader in here with the fucking lightsaber, and you're like, this guy seems weird. What is he doing here? This is weird. Okay? Rose, I don't know why she was here. I don't know what her purpose was. I didn't like her role. And like, that's a little bit of nitpicking because, right, just because I didn't really like the character, but I saw her purpose. It was to kind of, I actually don't know. I mean, she was helpful. She was nice. She fell in love with Finn. I just don't know what, I don't know what her purpose was. I don't know why she was there. I don't know how she drove the story. And then Rey. Why was Rey even flirting with the dark side? Right? Why was she even flirting with the dark side? Who knows? It seems like at this point, it's only because you cannot introduce a Jedi without also introducing the conflict of whether they're going to turn to the dark side or not. And that's it. Like, literally, you don't give any background on her. You don't give any conflict within her. And all you do is you just throw a couple words at the screen and say, yo, I feel like you're being tempted by the dark side. Conflict. There you go, guys. Conflict. Luke Skywalker had conflict. Why? Because his dad turned to the dark side in the most awful way on the planet. So yes, it's in his genes. You can see the conflict. You already got rid of that possibility with Rey by saying that her parents were nobodies. Cool. Okay. You take Anakin, and even in the shitty prequels, they delivered on saying why he had that conflict. Because the Jedi Order treated him like shit, treated him like he was scary, never trusted him the entire time, and then he had that whole arc, right? Maybe not the best executed, but he had that whole arc. All right, but I'm sorry, but Rey, what conflict did she have? Why is she tempted by the dark side? It honestly, because the writing was so poor, it strictly felt like it was only there because Disney feels like you cannot have a Jedi, cannot introduce a Jedi without some kind of conflict with them wanting to go to the dark side. Poor character development. You cannot just introduce that conflict for the sake of it and not even attempt to explain it. If you told me where she came from, if her parents had some kind of value where you could see that kind of, like, attraction to the dark side, then okay, cool. But like I said, at this point, it just seems like Disney feels like you can't introduce a Jedi without showing some kind of conflict for the dark side. Finn, what the hell did he do this movie? Trying to get a Codemaster that was of no use, kissing a girl, fighting a stormtrooper, that's all he did. What was his purpose in the movie? How did his character advance? One of the most important newly introduced movies in the three, newest ones in the new trilogy, and he did nothing in this movie that was of any consequence. Terrible. Can you connect The Luke Skywalker of Return of the Jedi to the Luke Skywalker of now, they're like two completely different people. It's like they just completely shit on his entire development from the prequels, or sorry, from the original trilogy and just threw him in here. And Kylo Ren took... Why did Kylo Ren have his shirt off? I mean, that's nitpicking, but I just don't see a reason for that. What is the reason for that? What was that scene? To show how buff he's gotten? I don't get it. It's like he just showed up to the studio one day, and the director was like, "Holy shit, dude! You look buff now. Yo, let's get a scene. Let's get a scene." Oh my god. To make that joke. Yes, to make a joke where Rey has to tell him, "Can you please put a shirt on?" Literally, one of the most sinister people in the planet, who's so conflicted with the light side, dialoguing with a brand new, probably the legitimately one of the last Jedis to ever exist, and we got to have a dialogue scene about him putting his shirt on. That's what they want. That's where they felt the need to include some humor. Ridiculous. Oh, these guys are so funny. What's up, Lady M? Did you like the Kylo Ren shirtless scene? Oh, yeah. Fucking incredible that they would do that. But anyway, those are my complaints about the film. Let me go to the bathroom. I'll come back and we'll talk a little more, but that's like the majority of my rant. But I desperately need to go to the bathroom. So I'll be right back.